Hi there. Welcome to the Big Idea Food Podcast. This is Andrew I from Big Idea Ventures, your host. Today we'll be talking to Aquacultured, a company producing a fungi-based or mushroom-based whole whitefish and shrimp. It's an incredible product, no processing, no added lots of added ingredients, very clean label, nutrition is fantastic. And these guys are trying to kind of revolutionize the seafood industry. So why don't you listen? Let me know what you think of the podcast, either via the chat box or the comment box or via reaching out to us on Instagram or LinkedIn or one of those places. Love to hear your thoughts on the podcast. Let's get into it. Thanks. Bye. Hey Anne, how are you?
Hi, Andrew. I'm doing great. Really excited to be chatting with you today. Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem at all. Aquacultured, great company. We're really glad to have found you guys. Tell us what you guys do.
Oh, well, this is great. What we've done is we've created the world's first whole muscle cut seafood alternative through the process of fermentation. And what makes this particularly exciting is our proprietary strain of fungi is grown and not extruded. This allows us to have and maintain a superior nutritional profile to other forms of plant-based seafoods in particular, while maintaining that traditional seafood-like texture. So it's a really exciting product. I'm excited to be working on.
Did you rehearse that, or did you have it written down, or like have you said it so many times in the last 6 months that it's just verbatim? But unpack it for me. Come on, let's give the people a kind of a more sort of common man or common person or common woman description of what that really all means. Okay, so aquacultured, what's the product? Tell me what people get to either eat or use.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So aquacultured foods has created an alternative to traditional seafood. And how we do that is by growing a strain, a proprietary strain of fungi into a whole piece of like a shrimp or a whitefish fillet. We're working on ahi tuna, which we're really excited about. So with the goal to remove the strain on our oceans and to create a more sustainable food source.
Okay, so a solid piece of whitefish or shrimp that you're using, and you're using fungi to grow that, and it has the same. And I've seen the product, so I know. I'm kind of acting like I'm not. I don't know, but I know because I've seen it. It looks like a piece of whitefish. It looks like a piece of shrimp. It looks like it. It has the texture of it. It's pretty uncanny, actually. And then you're using that to create a product that people can then take home in their kitchens and make some great alternative to fish and seafood.
Yes, exactly. So that's what we're particularly excited about. So our first product is a popcorn shrimp. We have 3 flavors, an original, a spicy, and a coconut shrimp. These ones are going to be merchandised in the frozen set next to traditional seafood. It's great. It's got very similar nutritional qualities to that of traditionally caught or raised shrimp, in that it's high protein. It's got the macronutrients that you're really looking for. It is as close to unprocessed as you can possibly be. So we've got a really great nutritional profile. But what I'm particularly excited about is our fresh refrigerated product. This is the whole cut pieces that just have the similar texture, feel, nutritional, just absolute look and appearance of traditional seafood. So what we're creating is, for example, a piece of whitefish that has the look and feel of whitefish. So it could be used as a piece of sashimi. And that is kind of how we are marketing it at first, just because the beauty of the product is in its appearance. So we want to really be able to highlight that and really show how differentiated it is. And this type of product is going to be the first to market in the fresh refrigerated set, preferably next to the other forms of alternative proteins, such as Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat in the fresh refrigerated set.
Got it. So one of the things we've experienced in the alternative protein space, the plant-based, cell-based, fermentation-based side, is that these products can be, and some of the complaints have been, that the early iterations of these products include lots of ingredients. They can be processed, and it's not clean label, right? The labels are often, pretty darn long for some of these products. Now, I think it's fair to say that a lot of these companies that have been creating products over the last 3 to 4 years have taken on board that feedback and have done what they can to simplify and to clean up the kind of the ingredient nutritional panel. But in your case, it's a solid piece of fungi, and therefore no processing, no machine. Well, obviously, I'm guessing there's some preparation in terms of cutting and forming, but in terms of multiple ingredients, lots of processing, lots of steps in the manufacturing. You guys are just not anywhere near that, are you?
Right, exactly. See, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is one of the areas I'm really excited about. We've got an extremely clean ingredient list. It is just the protein. So through biomass fermentation is how we're creating and growing this particular strain of fungi. And so it has all the nutrition is naturally occurring. It's got high levels of protein, has high levels of fiber, it has macro and micronutrients, vitamin Bs. It has everything you'd really, really need or want in a fungi-based protein. Now, interestingly enough, mushrooms are not considered plants. They're considered closer to animals. It's a third unique kingdom all in of itself. However, the FDA classifies it still as being a plant. And so the industry is kind of out on whether or not fungi-based protein products, such as aquacultured foods, should go by plant-based, mushroom-based, fungi-based. So we're all kind of in it together, working out the exact terminology. But the beauty of the product is how clean it is and nutritionally superior.
Now, one thing I'd like to also dig a little deeper into, you mentioned, you used the term, I think, biomass fermentation process. Now, I'm sure that kind of term means something to scientists and people really involved in this space. But if I can simplify it, or can you simplify it for us? It's just growing it, right? You're just growing.
Yes,
you're just growing the material. And I guess the fermentation side is what, like you would do with a beer or a product like that. So I don't want people to start thinking about, oh my God, biomass fermentation processing. This is a scary, horrible. Like, what do you mean? Is it just growing a piece of, plant?
That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up. So for clarity's sake, yes, we are just growing a mushroom, very similar to how button mushrooms are produced on an industrial level. I'm not sure, but they use trays with some form of like a sawdust or a coconut husk, and then they seed it with the pure spores, or they inoculate it with pure spores, and then it grows. Well, we're doing something very similar to that, only we are growing it in trays with liquid. So it's still going to be grown and produced vertically, which is very exciting because it's allowing us to create a very sustainable product in the fact that it uses significantly less water, energy, and land acreage in order for production. So we're making a very strong, significant environmental impact that way, which is exciting. But when it comes down to what we're doing, we're just growing a mushroom in a tray. So it's very, very simple.
Okay, so biomass fermentation processing is growing little mushrooms or big mushrooms in a tray.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. The biomass is big. It's bigger. It's not like a powder. So yeah.
Okay, got it. So okay, much more sustainable, low levels of processing, significant amount of protein, similar nutritional to a fish or a shrimp or whatever. I'm trying to scratching my head a little bit. What are the downsides? What are the challenges? What are the why should people still say no, it's not for me?
I don't know. I don't think there's a downside on a consumer level. It's better for you. It's better for the environment. It tastes great. It has the familiar texture that you're really looking for. It's tender. Like I don't think there's a downside at all from a nutritional point, a sustainability standpoint, or of course from an animal and environmental impact. So it's superior on multiple levels. I guess challenges that we're coming up with right now is the fact that this technology is just so cutting edge and new that we're going to have to create our own facility in order to grow it. Because co-packers or co-manufacturers of this type of product just currently aren't available. Yeah, exactly. They don't exist. They don't exist. And so on one hand, it's really great because we're going to be able to safeguard our trade secrets, maintain superior quality of production, and just have a handle on that whole supply chain. On the other hand, it's a significantly larger project that we're entering into. However, understanding the importance of those trade secrets, it's probably going to end up being for the best because, like I said before, we can really safeguard our trade secrets, in addition to the fact that we are going after 3 patents. So highly defensible product, really excited about all that. But throwing in the mix, having to figure out the facility is it's a lot to work on, but it's very manageable. And that's part of the excitement about what we're creating as well, is that if you're going to build a facility, this is sort of the one you want to build because of how straightforward it is and how similar it replicates the industrial process of button mushroom production.
Absolutely. And in the last 3 to 4 weeks, Seaspiracy has sort of come out. A lot of people are talking about it. It's causing a lot of questions and discussions around, how we're dealing with our kind of use of fish and so on from an ocean perspective. Is that kind of discussion that's going on right now helping aquaculture? Is that sort of part of the discussion that you're getting into with potential investors and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it really is. It's shining a light on what's going on and how a difference in the change needs to be made. And so what's so important about that is that from a consumer level, the consumers are looking and searching for these alternative products. On an investor level, there's more awareness. The opportunity is really having a light shine on it. There's significant case studies, there's research, there's due diligence being out there for investors so that they don't necessarily have to put in the tens of thousands of dollars to do it on their own. These case studies are already created and out there. So it's just shining a light on the problems in general. And I think it's really good for everybody. The more information that's out there, the more it's talked about, the better our chances of increasing and saving our oceans sooner rather than later is occurring. And so that I think is definitely a win, industry-wide win.
Now, the great thing is that where the consumers go, the retailers and the food service follow, because, dollars are what dollars and giving consumers what they're looking for is what the retailers and the food service folks are focused on. Are they expressing an interest in, I'm sure they are, these alternative seafood products and aquaculture in particular?
Yeah, definitely. And the industry itself, it's a nascent industry right now. So it is about, I think plant-based seafood is about 1% of the size of the total plant-based market right now. So it's very small on plant-based meat market right now. However, there's extremely high demand for this product. There just hasn't been a lot of companies diving into the space. So there's very high demand. Recent studies have come out talking about how there's a 13 times increase in the demand for the products and its growth. What is it? It's expected to grow to be $1.3 billion within the next 10 years of plant-based seafood itself. I'm not sure if that's just America, but I feel like it probably is because globally we're talking on the seafood market being a $206.9 billion market. So it's a massive industry. And so with the number of people really moving towards plant-based, the number of people moving towards plant-based everything, plant-based meat, plant-based milk, plant-based seafood now is starting to get the attention that it really and truly deserves. So what we see here is massive demand, no players, or very early smaller players, but no main one name, which puts us aquaculture in a very uniquely interesting and exciting position to come to the forefront and be the household name that we hope to be.
Fantastic. I agree. So I'm guessing investors are knocking on your doors. How has that been going? Have you had folks who are sort of interested in supporting the mission and also seeing this as a potential, wealth creation opportunity for their own investments?
Yeah, it's going really well, which is exciting. Especially since the BIV announcement has come out, we've been having a lot of investors reach out to me and set up phone calls. Since Seaspiracy, people in my network have just kind of been reaching out and making introductions to VCs, and all the VC calls have been going really, really well. There's high amounts of interest in the product. There's high amounts of interest in the technology and the defensibility of the technology. There's a lot of interest in being a key player early on that's really poised to become a major player, hopefully a leading a leader in the market. But right now, as being the only whole muscle alternative for seafood, I think we're in a pretty good position to take advantage of that, especially with the resources of BIV. So this has been it's really a blessing for us.
You've been great as part of the program, really have. Your attitude, your approach, your drive, your hustle. Any dimension you care to think of from a founder perspective, we're all sort of cheering for you, and we think you're amazing. So which means we'll turn now to you guys. Who are the founders? Tell us a little bit about background and story, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we've got a very unique background and story. My partner and I have a combined 25 years of experience in food and beverage. So with CPG Food and Beverage, we're really experienced, on the marketing, the sales, the product development side. So we make a really great team with very complementary skill sets. So very, very excited. Interestingly enough, so I started out in finance, and I worked in finance for quite some time, and then I realized that my calling was towards food, and I went to culinary school, but always knowing that I wasn't meant to be working in restaurants full time. I went for the passion and the love of the food and beverage industry. So I graduated and I combined my finance, my entrepreneurial background with my culinary background and started another snack company, took that nationwide and grew that really rapidly. So that was exciting. However, it wasn't necessarily as close to my heart as this is. So just really seeing the world, seeing what's going on with our oceans, the fact that the global population is expected to increase by 2 billion in the next 30 years, there's significant impact. And I've always had a tendency to want to reach out and help where I can. And that's when I kind of discovered this product, and through processing and the process of refining, experimenting, testing, really created something that is game changing on so many different levels. And why I'm so particularly excited to be working with BIV in order to help us with the networking and the support in order to make this become what it is become. Also then, because I digress, but my
Go ahead.
So my co-founder, Brittany Chibi, is truly amazing. She also has a background in food and beverage, where she had a snack company as well that she grew very successfully. But prior to that, she worked for Schreiber Foods, which is a $6 billion global dairy company, where she worked in the sales side for both private label and quick serve restaurants, or just the restaurant and food service channels, which is exciting because food service is exactly where we want to focus, at least early on, while we're developing our value-added product for the retail space.
Okay, so that's you and that's Brittany. You're both F&B, a lot of experience, product development, marketing, culinary. So you're kind of approaching it from lots of different angles. What do you see as being, from a business perspective, some of the key either challenges or things you need to get right, obstacles over the next year or two as you grow? What are the things you're sort of cognizant of and trying to solve as you move forward?
Great, really good question. So some of the areas that we really need to work on is our recruitment. So we need to hire a few just like truly powerful, motivated, industry-changing key hires. And for that, we'd like to bring on somebody for operations and somebody in our science and tech side in order to help move the business forward. It's a lot of work. And right now we're a small team. We're a small, very capable team, but we are looking to hire and recruit those key hires. And then also fundraising. So we're still very early on in the process, but we are in the process of fundraising, and that is going to be truly game changing for us. It's going to help us put all the resources towards those key hires, towards the scale up and pushing the product out there, because the sooner we can get a product out there, the better it's going to be for everybody.
Okay, so recruitment and fundraising. From a recruitment perspective, there are two roles you're looking for right now, right? So one is an operations person. Just in case there's anyone listening who happens to be in operations and is really excited about what you guys are doing, or knows someone that might be. What are the kind of couple of the key points you're needing from an operations experience perspective?
Oh, sure. Well, let's see here. Somebody who, first of all, it has to be a good cultural fit, because they're going to be joining the team very early on and work very closely with my partner and myself. So that has to be very important. But experience in the industry, preferably if they have experience on food and beverage and food tech, because there are unique needs in that regards. Somebody who, preferably, when you put out your wish list, somebody who has experience with science and experience with food and beverage, somebody who has supplier connections, somebody who has a lot of experience with forecasting our needs across multiple channels, somebody who's good with mathematics and hopefully the accounting.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Okay.
I haven't put together a formal list, so it's just all of our needs just kind of coming off the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, no, that's great. So in terms of your website, where people can go and find out about some of these things, both the product, the team, maybe recruitment, etc., what website do they go to for that?
Right, great. Well, right now it's Aquacultured Foods, so with a D, so Aquacultured Foods with a D.com. And we are going to be going through a rebrand. Right now we're going through the process of a rebrand to be Uncapped Foods. It's got a much more consumer-friendly name that is going to allow us to really capitalize on the cross-category potential. So our packaging is going to have shrimp or seafood really big, so it's not confusing at all, but we want to be able to at some point take advantage of the product that we've created's cross-category potential. So if we have something called Aquacultured Foods, on the science side is very relatable and great, but when you bring it and have it at the consumer level, we're hearing that it's got a little bit of a ew from a
really, because in England, cultured means someone that has class and elegance and style. So aquacultured sounds perfect to me. So here's the thing for everyone. Anyone listening, and there's probably only about 7 people listening, so I'm not sure this is data driven, but anyone listening, if you want to add a comment, either a thumbs up or a thumbs down for the brand Aquacultured versus Uncapped. Is it Uncapped? What's the second part?
Foods.
So, okay, Aquacultured or Uncapped Foods. Give a thumbs up for one or the other and a thumbs down for the one you like least and the one you like most. And I will bet you, and Palermo, and maybe I shouldn't say this because then people are going to go against me, but I bet you 85% of the people are going to go for Aquacultured as the thumbs up. But we'll see. We'll see.
And this is something I'm glad we're chatting about too, because the cultured side is in posh that you mentioned is exactly what we thought when we first named it. However, we're getting like one of the branding experts that we got connected with through BIV kind of told us that it was the best product with the worst name he's heard in a while.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I guess that shows when you put the word expert at the end of a sentence for someone's description. I don't know if that means anything or not, but I think if you're talking to somebody who really understands who is like deep in the weeds on alternative protein, cultured means cell-based and means sort of science and all those sorts of things. But to your average run-of-the-mill consumer who aren't up to their elbows in alternative protein, saying something's cultured doesn't mean science. It means it's elegant, it's stylish, it's sort of nice. I guess cultured is nice. I guess it depends on what, where you come from politically, maybe. Everything's political nowadays. But so, uncapped to me has no meaning. So, I know I've discussed this with you before, so I'm not going to bring up an old discussion. But yeah, anyone listening, thumbs up or thumbs down to aquacultured versus uncapped foods. If you like one versus the other, love to get your comments and feedback. And if everyone says aquacultured, then Anne, you're going to have to listen to me and rethink. Okay, let's not get off track completely. Back to uncapped foods. We've talked about you guys, we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about recruitment and funding kind of being the key challenges. From your point of view, if everything goes to your sort of longer term plan, where will uncapped foods / aquacultured foods be in 5 years' time? Talk about, if you wouldn't mind, your place in the market, maybe talk a little bit about products and maybe even talk about geography. You can take that, in any direction you want.
Yeah, sure. So, I think ideally we'd have a similar trajectory as that of Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat. We're coming in as an early player with a significantly improved upon product in the alternative seafood space. So we've got that, which is really great. We are targeting both food service and retail branded for a few reasons. Food service, because 70% of all seafood is bought, purchased, and consumed out of home in restaurants. So that's a massive opportunity that we're really and truly targeting with that. And then also we want to leverage our name recognition and the experience, so the whole eating experience with an in-grocery store, in-home eating experience. So we are going to be leveraging that recognition, as I said, to get our value-added product onto the shelf in the grocery stores. So that's our initial strategy for go-to-market. However, also since we're American, we are planning on launching in America. However, we see this as a global play because seafood is consumed at significantly higher per capita rates globally than it is in America. And so we can really see this being something that'll have very high acceptance rates overseas. So we do see ourselves going globally with this.
Do you see yourself having the potential to partner with an existing seafood company, a company that's already, for the last 20, 50, 100 years been selling seafood as a core product and they've got, a strong understanding of the consumer, distribution, all of the things that you're going to need to kind of understand to do well with your product, or based on what they've been doing, do you think there's just not a cultural fit and it's not a relationship that you would look at?
That's a really good point. On one hand, I love the idea of partnering with a global seafood company because they do bring all those, fine attributes, experience, and supply chain that you've been talking about. On the other hand, seeing everything that's kind of going on in the industry is a little bit scary. So it's like, do I want to be associated with that side? But at the same time, if they are truly trying to make an impact and have a desire to make an impact, like why wouldn't I be interested in having a conversation to see where things could potentially head? I think that the opportunity for partnership could could be wonderful. As long as both companies are mission aligned. I think it could make a lot of sense. But like I said, I mean, we'd want to be mission aligned. We want to make sure that we are trying to save our oceans, and we want to make sure that we're trying to feed the 2 billion additional mouths, and we want to do it sustainably and deliciously. So it's something I hadn't really thought of, but I think it's something I should truly consider.
I think that's a really great way of thinking about things. The biggest impact you guys can have on the ocean, on what we're doing to it, is to make your product as readily available, as accessible, as delicious and as amazing as possible to as many people around the world as possible. So the more people that can consume aquacultured products, uncapped food products, the more they won't be consuming seafood. So I think there's the potential for a significant amount of profit for those traditional seafood companies who know what consumers are looking for when they're buying popcorn shrimp or whitefish, etc. So that consumer understanding is important. The distribution channels are important, and if you guys can sell millions and millions of units of your product, which is fungi-based, that's a number of fish that aren't necessary to be farmed from the ocean. So, yeah, let's make you guys as globally successful as possible. I think that's the solution to solving some of the challenges we have.
I feel you. Yes, definitely.
All right. So from an investor perspective, you've mentioned that you've already had some investment. Obviously, we invested. What kind of investors are you looking for, and what kind of relationships on that side of the equation are you seeking out?
Yeah, so we're currently seeking out smart money because it's a partnership, especially with where we are in the production cycle, in the growth cycle of our company. So we'd like to have smart money to help us invest, but also the contacts, the experience, the understanding of the industry, where we are, where we're going, how we're going to get there. And then the ability for an investor to make introductions with, maybe some key players in the industry that we may need to speak with at some point, or maybe some, buyer intros, or I don't know, but there's so much more value in smart money. And so I think that is who we are initially targeting, especially because in this space right now with alternative protein space, particularly alternative seafood, there's a lot of money being thrown at it, especially because we're fermentation and fungi based. So we kind of hit all three really hot industry trends right now. And so there's a lot of money being thrown into it. So we're trending towards the enviable position to be able to choose who is going to be on our investor team. And I think we really want somebody who's going to be a team with us.
Got it. Absolutely. I don't know where this is coming from, but one of the things my wife has loved for quite some time is the occasional fillet of fish from McDonald's. Now, I know she's pretty high end. She likes really nice food from really nice places. She also likes, more accessible foods from companies like McDonald's sometimes. I think there's a time and a place for everything. Do you see the ability for aquacultured and the kind of solid whitefish that you guys are growing being something that could one day be on the plant-based fillet of fish menu for a company like McDonald's?
Oh, I definitely do. Especially what's interesting is that our whole process, once we reach scale, is going to be really relatively inexpensive to produce. So it's always going to be a premium product, but we should be able to hit price targets that McDonald's or any other QSRs are really going to be interested in order for them to meet their customer demands on price. So we're going to be able to provide a really delicious, better for you, sustainable product at a price point that McDonald's or any other quick serve restaurants are going to be interested in purchasing from us at, it's going to be a win. It could be a real win. I'd be very interested in pursuing that.
Perfect. From a prediction perspective, where do you think you'll see aquacultured foods be sold in first, or where do you think you'll see aquacultured foods be sold in first? Do you think it will be a restaurant? Do you think it will be a grocery store? Do you think it will be direct to consumer via your website? Where do you think people will first be able to find and consume your product?
That is another great question. So right now, like later today, my partner has some phone calls set up with a really, really famous chef in the Chicagoland area. So I'm going to hope that that's going to be our first to market experience, is with those really nice high-end restaurants. However, our first experience, we were initially thinking we were going to go to market with our fresh refrigerated product first. However, there's going to be a level of consumer education so that they don't overcook it. And with that, we were thinking we were going to go to e-commerce first. However, we're going to launch with a frozen product first. And so direct to consumer through frozen doesn't make as much sense as a strategy.
Explain that for a minute for people that aren't in the know. Why does a frozen direct to consumer kind of approach not make a lot of sense in the first instance?
Well, the reason why is just it costs $50 to ship something frozen overnight, and there is supply chain hassles, and that's just if you actually get it there overnight. I've shipped products out to you and a few more people on the BIV team overnight, and they took 3 or 4 days to get there, even though it costs $50. So I don't think the average consumer is going to want to spend that type of money on a product to be shipped. So that's why I don't think frozen is going to be direct to consumer is the way to go. Now, fresh refrigerated is different because we can ship it out frozen with ice packs and insulation. And by the time it gets to the consumer, it'll arrive partially frozen, partially thawed, which is fine because it's a refrigerated product and doesn't have the same requirements. So that may still be a strategy that we're entertaining. But as far as our first product to launch, we are simultaneously going not to launch where it will be found first. We're simultaneously going after food service and grocery channels, and we have connections in both. And we're getting a lot of excitement on both because of the fact it's so new. There is one of the top 3 major distributors of grocery products in the U.S. We're having continual talks about it. And it's looking very likely that they're going to pick us up. So I think they want to. They're just waiting for the buyer to come back from a maternity leave. So I don't know if I can say that. I hope I can. I hope I don't get in trouble. So that's looking really strong and really exciting. I think that we can reach a lot of people that way. But at the same time, with 70% of all seafood being bought out of home, we'd be remiss to not target food service. So.
And so, again, for those people listening who are not in the food space, food service, break that down for us. What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. Restaurants, mostly restaurants, cafeterias, university lunch halls, workplace, like Google's cafeteria, anything like that. Just any out of home is going to be food service that you're going to buy. We're mainly targeting, at least initially. Our first. The raw product will probably go to like higher end restaurants, or we kind of like the idea of the poke bowl shops because you can see how just beautiful these pieces are. So there's a lot of restaurants that do that we want to target. But with our fried, we can make it in so many different forms. So we can have a popcorn shrimp, or we can have a calamari and others. And so when you open those stores up, that's a really great opportunity for quick serve restaurants. That's what the QSR is, in case you're not familiar. So quick serve restaurants, and also fast casual restaurants. So like Olive Garden, Red Lobster, Fridays, any of those sorts of restaurants as well, because those are really great. Like, when was the last time you went to a fast casual restaurant and didn't see like a fresh fried calamari on the menu? So
or a shrimp, yeah.
Or a shrimp, right? Yeah, and so these are just two really great ways, value-added ways to really target that key plant-based consumer demographic that doesn't always have new and interesting and exciting things to try on a menu in a restaurant. So
when you're ready, remind me, we've got a really good relationship with the head of culinary for the Hyatt chain across Asia. So Singapore, the chap is based in Singapore, but he's responsible for, I think it's something like 250 to 500, something like that, hotels across Asia, Hyatt-based hotels.
wow.
He was the chap who brought Beyond and Impossible, I think, to Singapore, where it was first tasted. It was at the Hyatt. People kind of were in a line around the building and down the street to test these amazing, to test these plant-based products. I think it would be great to get you guys to have him play with your product and kind of maybe launch it in Asia at some point. Obviously, let's get some real traction going on in North America because that's the focus. But when you're ready, let's remember to go talk to the chaps at the Hyatt because they're pretty forward thinking. Which brings me to the point: if there's anyone in the US who is either on the hotel side, the restaurant side, and your consumers are gravitating towards plant-based and you're looking at new ways of getting excitement around your restaurant, around your hotel, please do reach out to Anne or Brittany or myself. And let's talk about how we can get aquacultured as part of that excitement in your new place. So 40 minutes, Anne, I don't want to keep you too long, and I know people have things to do in their lives when they're listening to this. What can people do, whether they're consumers, whether they're retailers, restaurants, chefs, investors, and so on? What can people do to help aquacultured, uncapped foods with its mission? How do you want people to engage with you today and moving forward?
Oh, that's a really great question. Maybe reach out over LinkedIn. I check it all the time. So I'm Anne Palermo on LinkedIn, Aquacultured Foods, and I would love to have any kind of conversation and with just about anybody. I Sorry about that.
No, that's cool. Just anyone at all wants to reach out to Anne Palermo on LinkedIn, just reach out. When she gets rich and famous, maybe she won't answer, but right now, as she's building an amazing food company, she will absolutely answer you. So that's LinkedIn. I'm guessing you're at aquaculturedfoods.com.
Yeah, and it's Anne with an E, so ANNE at aquaculturedfoods.com.
Oh, email. Okay, now you're going to get all kinds of, hair growth offers and all sorts of other random things.
Hopefully the bots aren't going to download that. Yeah.
You never know.
Better change the name now.
What would be one last question before we head off into the podcasting sunset? What would be one piece of advice you would give a fellow entrepreneur that's kind of coming up behind you? I know that you guys have been building this company for a little while now. What would be the one piece of advice you wish someone would have given you a year or two ago that you want to pass on to somebody?
I really think it's, don't be afraid to reach out to people, especially in this alt protein industry. Everybody has the same goal and the same mission, a rising tide raises all ships. And I've been reaching out to people more and more, and the more conversations I have, the more I learn, the more they learn, just the better off everybody is. And you just get connected with people that way. And it's just an overall really, it's been really great for us overall. And you just never know who might be interested in a conversation or who might think what you're doing is really cool. So I think put yourself out there is my number one advice.
I think that's fantastic. I hadn't even thought of it. So Anne Palermo, LinkedIn, Aquacultured Foods. Please do reach out if you're a consumer, retailer, food service, chef, potential investor. And if you want to find out more about Big Idea Ventures, bigideaventures.com, Big Idea Ventures via LinkedIn. We're always looking for great founders like Anne and Brittany. I'm not sure we're ever going to find as many great founders as Anne and Brittany, but if you're a founder in the alternative protein or food innovation space, please do reach out to us. And if you want to help aquacultured foods in their mission, reach out to Anne and Brittany. Anne, thank you so much. Anne with an E, thank you so much. I do hope people vote for aquacultured foods instead of uncapped. That will just kind of screw with your day just a little. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Andrew. It's such a pleasure. Really appreciate being invited on your show.
My show. Oh, my goodness. All right. Thanks, everyone. Back in a sec. Hi, it's Andrew again. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Aquacultured Foods. These guys are doing some incredible things. So I know they'd love to hear from you. I know they'd love your engagement and support. Please do reach out to them via their website and the various kind of places they're at, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. Big Idea Ventures is the kind of folks behind the investment in aquaculture. We are, very focused on supporting the world's best entrepreneurs to solve big problems. So, love to hear from you about Big Idea Ventures as well. All right, thanks very much for taking part in today's podcast. Look forward to hosting you again on our next podcast. Subscribe, like, do all the wonderful things that mean we're getting positive feedback in terms of what we do. And if there's things we can do better, let us know that too. Thanks for joining the Big Idea Food Podcast. Look forward to chatting with you all next time. Bye.